Have you ever felt like you were drowning in a sea of obligations simply because you share a last name with the people holding you under? If you are tired of sacrificing your mental health at the altar of family tradition, then stay with me, because today we are going to redefine what it means to belong, and I want you to share your own story in the comments as we dive into this. Family is often marketed to us as an unbreakable bond, a sacred circle where love is unconditional and loyalty is mandatory. We are told from a young age that blood is thicker than water, a phrase that has been twisted over centuries to imply that we owe our kin a blank check of our time, our energy, and our emotional well-being. But let's look at the truth that many are afraid to speak out loud. Family doesn't obligate us to do anything. It does not force us to be kind in the face of cruelty, nor does it require us to accept impositions, whether they are shouted from across a dinner table or implied through heavy, guilt-laden silences. Think about the cousin who only calls when they need money, or the parent who uses your childhood mistakes as a weapon whenever you try to assert your independence. We are conditioned to think that accepting this is just part of the package. We are told that we must tolerate the intolerable because that's just how they are. But why? Why does the label of family suddenly strip away the basic human right to be treated with dignity and respect? Imagine a woman named Sarah. Sarah grew up in a household where her mother, Martha, was the emotional sun around which everyone else was forced to orbit. If Martha was unhappy, the entire house had to be in mourning. As Sarah reached her 30s, Martha began making implicit impositions. She would mention how lonely she was on Sunday afternoons, not directly asking Sarah to visit, but sighing heavily enough that Sarah felt the crushing weight of blame if she chose to spend that time with her own children or resting. For years, Sarah accepted this. She felt obligated. She felt that being a good daughter meant accepting Martha's emotional manipulation. This specific type of manipulation, emotional blackmail, is often most potent when it comes from a mother. Because we are biologically and socially wired to seek a mother's approval, a blackmailing mother knows exactly which buttons to push to keep you in line. She uses fear, obligation, and guilt, often called the fog, to ensure you never stray too far from her control. How do you wake up to this? You wake up when you realize that her love feels more like a transaction than a gift. If you do what she wants, you get peace. If you assert your own needs, you get the silent treatment, tears, or a dramatic list of every sacrifice she ever made for you. To awaken is to recognize that a mother's past sacrifices do not buy your future autonomy. You didn't ask her to sacrifice. That was her choice as a parent. Using those sacrifices to guilt-trip an adult child is not love. It is a debt collection agency disguised as a relationship. Waking up means seeing the tears for what they often are, a tactical maneuver. When you finally say, "No, I can't come over today," and she responds with, "I guess I'll just be here alone. I'm used to being forgotten." She isn't expressing a feeling, she is issuing a sentence. She is trying to make your no feel so painful that you'll never say it again. Letting go doesn't mean you stop loving her. It means you stop participating in the game. It means hearing the guilt trip and choosing not to take the journey. You acknowledge her statement without letting it change your decision. You say, "I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom," and you stay home. The turning point for Sarah came when she realized that respect is a two-way street, not a one-way bridge, where she was the only one doing the walking. She started setting boundaries. When the sighing started, Sarah didn't take the bait. She didn't accept the blame for her mother's boredom. She said, "I love you, Mom, but I have plans this Sunday. Let's look at next Tuesday instead." The fallout was immediate. Martha accused her of being cold, of forgetting where she came from. This is where the narrative of family obligation becomes a cage. We must understand that just because we are family doesn't mean we can tolerate everything. Setting boundaries isn't an act of war, it's an act of self-preservation. It is the process of separating who I am from what they want me to be. It is the realization that you are not responsible for the emotional regulation of grown adults who happen to share your DNA. Consider the dynamic of blame in families. How many times have you been told you ruined a holiday because you finally spoke up against a bigoted comment or a personal insult? The person who creates the conflict is rarely the one blamed. Instead, the blame is shifted onto the person who breaks the peace by acknowledging the conflict. This is a toxic inversion of reality. You are not obligated to accept blame for reactions to someone else's poor behavior. If an uncle makes a derogatory remark about your career and you leave the room, you didn't make things awkward. The awkwardness was created by the insult. You simply chose not to host it. Everyone should be treated with respect, but that respect must be earned and maintained. We often hear people say, "But they're your mother," or "He's your brother." These statements are used as shields to protect toxic individuals from the consequences of their actions. However, the closer the relationship, the higher the standard of respect should be, not the lower. If you wouldn't allow a stranger or a casual friend to talk down to you, why is it acceptable for a sibling to do so? This brings us to a profound truth that many find difficult to admit. Sometimes the people who show us the most respect and provide the most consistent help are not our relatives, but our friends. We often find ourselves in situations where a stranger we met 5 years ago understands our worth better than the people who knew us as infants. Why is it that a friend will listen to our boundaries without taking them as a personal attack, while a family member views those same boundaries as a betrayal? It is often in friendship that we discover what healthy support actually looks like. A friend helps you because they choose to, not because they feel a biological debt. When a friend shows up at your door during a crisis, they aren't checking a box on a list of family duties. They are there because they value your existence. There are friends who will hold your hand through a heartbreak while your own siblings tell you to get over it. There are friends who will defend your name in rooms you haven't entered, while certain family members might be the ones whispering the very criticisms that wound you most. Let's look at the example of Mark. Mark had a brother who constantly belittled his ambitions, calling his business ideas pipe dreams and reminding him of his failures at every holiday gathering. This brother felt entitled to Mark's time, but never offered an ounce of encouragement. Conversely, Mark had a college friend named James. When Mark's business finally launched and hit a rough patch, it wasn't his brother who stayed up late helping him fix the website or bringing him coffee. It was James. James didn't share Mark's blood, but he shared Mark's vision and respected his effort. The irony is that Mark's family expected him to be grateful for their honesty, which was really just cruelty disguised as feedback, while ignoring the genuine life-saving support coming from outside the family circle. We must stop devaluing friendships in favor of toxic biological ties. A friend who respects your no, who celebrates your wins without jealousy, and who offers a shoulder without an invoice for emotional repayment is in many ways more of a family than someone who shares your DNA but drains your soul. Friendship is a voluntary bond, and because it is voluntary, it requires a higher level of mutual respect to survive. In a family, people often act poorly because they believe you can never leave. In a friendship, people act well because they know the bond is a choice that must be renewed every day. Separating things is vital. You can love someone and still recognize that they are not good for your mental health. You can appreciate the sacrifices a parent made while simultaneously refusing to let them dictate your adult life. These two truths can exist in the same space. You can be grateful for the roof they put over your head 20 years ago without paying for it with your silence today. The reality of family is that it is a social contract that requires maintenance from all parties. When one party stops being kind, stops being respectful, and starts using the relationship as a tool for control, the contract is breached. You are not a bad person for recognizing that breach. You are not disloyal for protecting your peace and leaning on those who actually show up for you. Think about the black sheep of the family. Often the black sheep is simply the person who stopped accepting the impositions and found solace in a chosen family. They are the ones who refused to play the role assigned to them in the family script. They are the ones who dared to say, "This isn't okay." While the rest of the family might view them as the problem, they are often the healthiest member because they have found the courage to set boundaries and build a community based on shared values rather than shared genetics. In the long run, setting boundaries actually creates the possibility for a healthier relationship. By removing the resentment that comes from being forced into obligations, you create space for genuine connection. If you spend time with your family because you want to, rather than because you have to, that time becomes meaningful. If you are there because of fear, guilt, or shame, the relationship is a hollow shell. We must stop teaching children that they owe their parents their lives. Children do not ask to be born. They are a choice made by parents. Therefore, the primary responsibility of care and respect flows from the parent to the child first. When that child becomes an adult, the relationship should transition into one of mutual respect between two equals. If the parent refuses to make that transition and continues to demand obedience or unquestioning loyalty, the adult child has every right to step back and seek that missing respect among peers and friends. This applies to implicit impositions as well. The silent treatment, the pointed comments about how busy everyone is these days, the comparison to other better relatives, these are all forms of emotional tax. You do not have to pay it. You can acknowledge the comment and move on without letting it take root in your heart. You can choose to be the person who breaks the cycle of generational trauma by refusing to pass these behaviors down. In the end, your life is your own. Your time is your most precious resource, and your mental health is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Do not let family be the reason that foundation crumbles. Treat everyone with the respect they deserve as human beings, but never forget that you deserve that same respect in return. If the price of being in your family is your self-respect, the price is too high. Separate the love from the obligation. Separate the history from the present. You are allowed to walk away from a fire, even if your family started it. You are allowed to build a chosen family of people who actually treat you with the kindness and consideration you deserve. Often, you will find that the people who carry you through the storm are the ones you chose, not the ones you were assigned. The most beautiful thing about life is that we get to choose who we let into our inner circle. While we cannot choose our ancestors, we absolutely choose our confidants. Let your family be a source of joy, not a source of dread. And if they cannot be a source of joy, let them be a distant part of your landscape rather than the storm that destroys your home. True family is found in the people who see you, who respect your no as much as your yes, and who never make you feel like you have to earn their love through total submission. You are worthy of love that doesn't hurt. You are worthy of a life where your boundaries are honored. If you love this story and want to hear more like it, please hit that subscribe button. It truly means the world to us and helps us grow. And hey, while you're at it, let's aim for 50 likes on this video. Help us smash that goal.